Remember last week when Hector was chasing all the Achaeans and the Achaeans were really, really scared? Do you remember? Okay, well, now the Achaeans, they finally got back. They got back by the ships and they were really scared. And there was a whole trench and there were these stakes sticking in the spiky things and they were trying to get back to the ships because Hector had killed a whole bunch of them. And then they finally got there and they stood and they were calling out to one another. And then they raised their hands up to the gods. And then Hector, he was like he had his really pretty haired horses and he had eyes that were like a gorgon. Or do you know the war god Ares? That's how his eyes were like. But Hera, she has white arms. Oh no! Hera, when she saw all the Achaeans were dying, she was so sad. And so right away she went and talked to Athena. And she was like, "Oh, Popoi, daughter of Aegis-bearing Zeus. What is this now? Now we don't care any longer that the Danaans are dying down to their last man. And it's all because of the force of one man, of Priam's son, Hector. Now this man has gone insane. Now he does many bad things." And then Athena, she has bright eyes. She was like, "This man, Hector, he has gone insane. But you know what? His battle fury and his strength, they will still destroy him here under the Achaeans' hands, here in his own country. But my father, Zeus, he's the one who has really gone insane. He doesn't have a good thought left in his mind. He's a meanie. He is a meanie and a villain, and he has scuppered all my plans. Zeus, he does not remember that I saved his son Heracles many times. So many times when Heracles was worn out with his labors of Eurystheus, and then Heracles would call out for help, and Zeus would send me down to save him. In my own good thoughts, I do not think that Heracles ever would have made it back from the high river of Styx when he was sent down to Hades to get the dog from the darkness. But now Zeus hates me. Instead, all he wants to do is follow the plans of Thetis, because Thetis came and kissed his knees, and Thetis threw her arms around his legs, begging for Zeus to honor Achilles, the city sacker. One day Zeus will call me his bright-eyed girl again. But come now, Hera. Now it's time for you to get the horses ready. And I'm going to go back to Dad's house. You know Dad, Zeus. He wears the Aegis. And I'm going to put on my armor. And I am going to get ready for war. And then we'll see if this Hector, this son of Priam, how happy he'll be to see the two of us on the edges of battle. Or maybe it will be the dogs and the birds that are happy because they'll be able to feast on the flesh and on the fat of some Trojan. So right away, Hera listened to her, and she went and she got the horses. They had gold harnesses, and they got ready, and they were going to go this way. Oh no! And Athena, she went up back to her dad's house. He's Zeus, he wears the aegis. And she took off her really pretty dress. You know, she made that dress with her own hands. And then she put on her dad's shirt, Zeus's shirt. Do you know that her dad also collects clouds? And then she was getting ready for battle, for war. You know, a lot of people cry all the time in war. And then she put her foot on the flaming chariot. And she got her big, heavy spear. This is a spear that just knocks down all of the ranks of hero men, because Athena doesn't like all the hero men. Sometimes she has a grudge. And her dad is a mighty dad. Yeah. And then Hera whipped the horses. Whoosh, whoosh, and they went flying, and the doors of the sky, they just open automatically. I think they open, well, the hours control them, but they're automatic. Because the hours are goddesses that they have control over all of Mount Olympus and all of the skies, and they close and open the clouds. And so it was through these clouds, and now they're like, whoosh, whoosh, and they're flying like that. Okay. But Zeus is up on Mount Ida, and he sees them. And he's so mad. He gets so mad. And so right away he calls for Iris. And Iris, she has golden wings. And Iris comes, and Zeus is like, Iris, go down there and turn them around. You know, I don't want them coming close to me. It won't be any good for anyone if we go to war. And I want you to tell them this, too. And I want you to make sure they know it will happen. I will break the knees of their horses, and I will throw them out of the chariot car, and I will completely break their chariot. And when I strike them with my lightning, that wound will take 10 years to heal. Then Athena will know that she should not fight with her father. Hera, I'm not as mad at. I don't really resent her, because this is just how she is. No matter what I say, she will do the opposite. So then Iris went down from Mount Ida right away, and she was like, whoosh, she had hurricane feet. Whoosh, 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 and she went up to the gates of Mount Olympus and the folds of Mount Olympus, and then she caught up with them, and she was going alongside them, and she was like, where are you two rushing off to? Have you lost your minds? Don't you know that the son of Kronos, he is not going to let you defend the Achaeans? The son of Kronos with his crooked mind, has actually told me to tell you this threat, and it will be something that happens. He will break the knees of your horses, and he will push you from the chariot car, and he will completely break your chariot. And it will take you 10 years to heal from the wound when he strikes you with his lightning. That's so that you, Athena, know better than to fight with your father. But Hera, he's not so angry at. He doesn't really resent you because he knows what you're like, and no matter what he says, you're going to do the opposite. But you, Athena, You are the most shameful ever. You are like a dog that you have held up your spear against your father. That's what Iris was like. She went away. And then Hera was like, and she said to Athena, "Oh, Papoi, now we can't fight any more against Zeus over the sake of these mortal men. So let one die. Let one live. Whether it's the Trojans or the Greeks, Zeus will decide whatever he thinks is fitting." So that's what she was like. And then they turned the chariots around and they went back to Mount Olympus. And then the hours came again. And they took the chariot and they put it in the stables that are full of ambrosia, because everything with the gods has ambrosia in it. And then the hours, they took the shiny chariot and they put it against the shiny wall. And then the goddesses, they came and they sat down on golden couches. But they were really sad. They were just really, really sad now. And then Zeus saw them, and he was going to follow them. So he came down from Mount Ida in his chariot, which had really good wheels. And he was on his horses. And then it was the Earthshaker, Poseidon, that took his horses and put them away in other stables, I guess, because they're not ambrosial. And then Poseidon put the chariot on a platform, like a stage, and then he put blankets over it, so it's like, "Good night, chariot." And then Zeus came and sat down, and he sat down on this gold throne. And when he sat down, all of Olympus shook under his feet. And he looked around, and Hera and Athena were there, but they just didn't want to talk to him. They weren't talking to him at all. And Zeus, he noticed. And he was like, "Hera, Athena, why are you so sad? Is it because you can't do this work of killing Trojans in battle where men win glory like you love to do? Why can't you do that? Because my hands are invincible and you can't do anything about them. It would take all the gods on Mount Olympus to try to turn me around like I turned you around, but they couldn't do it. Nope. And you should know that once I strike you with my lightning, you fall down out of Mount Olympus forever. And you know Olympus is the seat of the gods." And then Hera and Athena, they were just sitting there and they were like whispering to each other, and they were planning bad things for the Trojans. And Athena, she was so angry at her dad, and she was just sitting there, and she wanted to say something, but she didn't say something, but she was so mad. But Hera had all this anger, and it was in her chest, and she just couldn't even control it, and she was like, "Oh, most shameful son of Kronos, Zeus. What a thing to have said to us. We know how much stronger you are than us. We know that your strength cannot be held, but we still pity the Danaan spear fighters when they are dying, when they are fulfilling their evil fates. But still, we hold back from the fighting as you have ordered. But at least let us go down and give some advice. Let us be some help to the Danaans so that they do not all die because of your rage. That's what she was like. And then Zeus, he collects clouds. He was like, Hera, lady with your cow eyes, if you really want to see just how many Achaean spear fighters will die in the morning at the hands of your son of Kronos, your super strong Zeus, well, you should watch. Because mighty Hector is not going to stop fighting, not until he gets to the ships of fast-footed Achilles. And there, underneath Achilles' prow, Hector and Achilles will fight over Patroclus, because Patroclus will be dead. That is my divine prophecy. It will happen sometime in May. As for you and your anger, I don't care about your anger. I don't care if your anger drives you to the edges of the land. I don't care if your anger drives you to the edges of the sea. I don't care if it drives you deep down into that place where there is no ray of Hyperion sunlight, where there is no sweet breeze, down where Iapenos and Kronos are trapped forever, the depths of Tartarus. I don't care if you're mad at all. There's no one that's more like a dog than you. So that's what he was like. And Hera, well, she didn't say anything. Okay. And then the light from the shining sun, it went down. It went down into the ocean. And then the darkness of night came. And the darkness of night came and covered the whole earth. And do you know that the earth is what gives us all of our food? And if we don't eat, we'll die. Okay. And then the Trojans, they didn't want the sun to set because they were really kicking butt. But the Achaeans were like, whew, because they really wanted the sun to set because they were getting their butts kicked. But then shiny Hector, he was like, whew, leading all the Trojans away from the ships. And they were going all along the flowing river. And they were looking for a place because, the whole ground is covered in bodies. There's a body there and there. So they had to find a place with no bodies. Okay, and then they found a place that was clear of bodies. And then that's where Hector can have the meeting. So they all get off the horses. And they're all going to sit and they're listening to him. And Hector, oh no. Okay. And Hector has so many problems sometimes. He has this big spear. Okay. You know that Zeus really loves Hector, okay? But Zeus doesn't help him get things out of the box. So Hector has his 11 cubit long spear. Do you know how much a cubit is? Okay, it's like a forearm, okay? So it's like 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then I'm out of forearms. So it's like through the ceiling. But we're just gonna pretend, okay? Okay. So then he talks to all the Trojans. Hear me, Trojans and Dardanian allies. I thought that we were going to destroy the Achaean ships and make it back to Ilion. But then night came, and it's the darkness that has saved them. Darkness has saved the Achaeans and their ships. But we must listen to the night. So let's have dinner. And let's untie our horses, and let's throw some food down for them as well so that they can eat. And then let's send back to the city. Let's get some cows and some fat sheep. Let's bring the wine that honeys men's thoughts. Let's bring food from our own homes. Let's gather firewood so that all night long we can burn fires, and the light of those fires can go up into the sky, and that way the Achaeans will not be able to sneak off in the middle of the night across the wide sea. No, we don't want them going at their leisure whenever they want. We want them running away from us, stabbing each one of them, wounding them as they jump back onto their ships, and that way any man would hate to bring war and all of its tears back to the horse-breaking Trojans ever again. Let there be heralds, too, to send back to the city. And there in the city, let's get the young men and the men just starting to go gray. Let's put them up on the God-built walls and stand watch there all night long. And let the female women, each in their own house, start a fireplace so that there are fires burning. Let the watch stand all night so there will not be a sneak attack while we are out of the city. Make it so, hardy Trojans, and keep my order sound, and also get ready for what I will tell you at dawn, horse-breaking Trojans. Because I hope and I pray to Zeus and all the other gods that we will be able to drive out these dogs who have carried death. They have carried death here on their black ships. So we will keep watch all night. And then in the morning, before it is light out, we will put on our armor and we will get ready to fight. And then I will know if the strong son of Tydeus Diomedes, if he can push me back away from the ships, back into the walls of the city, or if I will cut him down with my pitiless bronze and I will steal his bloody armor. Tomorrow, Diomedes will learn what excellence is. Either he will be able to hold me back with his spear, or he will go down wounded, and all of his companions will be littered all around him under the light of the sun. As sure as I am that the gods are immortal, that the gods are ageless, that Apollo and Athena must be honored, that's how sure that tomorrow is a bad day for the Achaeans. Okay. So all the Trojans, they listened to him right away. And first they took the horses and they took them off of their harnesses. And then they tied them up next to their chariots. It was really nice. Okay, and then they went back to the city and they got the cows and they got the fat sheep and they got the wine that honeys the men's thoughts, and then they went and got food from each man's house, and then they got all the firewood, and then the smoke from all of their food, it was really delicious, and the wind went all over the sky so everyone could smell it. And then they made fires. So there were a lot of fires. And there were so many fires that they were shining so bright. It was like when there's a clear sky and there's no wind and there's a very full moon and there's all these stars and they shine all around the moon. And then there's just so much light and it shines everywhere on the earth. Like it shines on the lookout places and on the beaches and in the woods, like everywhere. So then it just feels like it's pure air just pouring down from the sky. And you can see every single star, and it's so beautiful. And the shepherds are so happy because then they can see their flocks and they're not going to be lions to eat them. Yeah. So that's how they made all their fires. And there were 1,000 fires. And around every single fire, there were 50 men, and they all sat around the light of the fire. And the horses were there too, and they were just standing there, and they were eating white barley, and they were eating oats, and they were all waiting for the dawn. Okay. Wow, that was fun. So that's how the Trojans kept watch. But the Achaeans, okay, so you remember the Achaeans were running away, and they had all that kind of cold, chasey fear, and they were like, okay, well, it's still like that. And they're super scared. And they're all tore up inside and messed up. It's like when there are two different winds, okay? Winds sometimes come very suddenly from Thrace. I don't know if you know that, but Thrace, winds just come. And one comes from the north, and then the other one comes from the west. And then they come onto the fishy sea, and they stir up all these black waves and seaweed, and it's all messy. Whew. And then that's how the Achaeans, they were all messed up inside. And do you know who was the worst one? Like who was really hurt inside? Agamemnon! Agamemnon, he was just walking back and forth, going and telling all of the heralds, those are like messenger guys, he was telling them all to go and get everybody and to make a big circle, but he was like, don't shout. And then he was like, I'm going to help too. And he went and got all the captains, and then all the Achaeans, they all sat down, but they were all really sad. And then Agamemnon, he got up in front of them, and he was crying. He was crying so much that it was like when there's a waterfall and it's a black waterfall and it's like pouring down a black waterfall high cliff face and everything must be black in this simile because it's so sad. That's how he was crying. And he said, friends. Leaders and counselors of the Argives. Zeus has got me all messed up inside. He has me tied in knots. Do you know that he lied to me, right? He lied when he said that he was going to nod and give his assent and that I would be able to sack Iliad and make it home again. Now he just orders me to go back to Argos without any honor at all. And a bunch of my guys are dead. Come on in, it's okay. There's a way. A bunch of my guys are dead. So now, I want you all to listen to me. I think it's time that we just get our ships and we go out of here. Because I don't think that we can take the well-walled city of Troy anymore. Everybody was just so quiet. And everybody was sitting there and they got even sadder now. But then Diomedes is really good at yelling. And when you're in war and you have to yell really loud, so he's just really good at yelling. And now he stood up and he was like, son of Atreus, lordliest. Now, I'm going to be the first to speak out against you because that is my right, since I am a lord of the assembly. Now, I don't want you to get mad. Don't get mad. I think everyone will remember that you were the first one to insult me, saying I had no courage, saying I had no skills in war whatsoever. Yeah, that's right. All these young people heard it, and all of these older people heard it as well. But you, well, Zeus only gave you kind of a half of a thing, right? Because sure, he gave you the scepter, so everybody respects you, everybody obeys you, but he sure didn't give you any courage, did he? And I think that that's more powerful. And I don't think, Daimoniae, that the Achaeans are as weak and as cowardly as you seem to think they are. So if you want to go, if your heart compels you to leave, go. There's the door. And you can just go across the paths of the wide sea. And you know, those Mycenaean ships, a bunch of them will follow you. But a lot of us long-haired Achaeans are going to stay here until we sack Iliad. And even if the rest of those Achaeans, even if they want to go back home in their ships to their own countries, well, that's just fine. Because me and Sthenelus, we are staying right here. We are staying here until the end of Ilion, because God is on our side. And then all the Achaeans were shouting because they really liked what Diomedes said, and he's a horse breaker. And then the next person who got up was the horseman Nestor. Son of Tydeus, Diomedes. Now we all know that you are very strong when it comes to battle. Very strong. And I would say that at least of the people your own age, you are also quite good in the assembly. I mean, the Achaeans couldn't shame what you just said. No one could speak out against it. But you didn't finish your speech. It's because you're young. You are young enough to be my son. You are young enough to be my youngest son, even. So though you have had an inspiration to speak out here in front of all of the Argive kings, and though you did not speak out of order, I would like, since I do brag to be older, I would like to add to this and to go through everything completely. First, the man who loves conflict with his own people, that man has no brotherhood. That man has no sense of what's right. That man has no home. But now it is night, and we must listen to the night. So let us all have dinner. And then let us set up guards. Guard watches all between our wall and our dug trench. I will order this task to the young men. But to you, Agamemnon, well, you have to rule. After all, you are the kingliest. So I think that you should have a feast in your tent for all the old men. I mean, we all know that you've got a lot of good wine in your tents. That wine that they brought on the Achaean ships from Thrace. Every hospitality is yours, and you rule over many men, and we all know that many gathered men, they listen to the man who has given the best advice. So, now we have every need of the wise of the Achaeans and of the strong of the Achaeans, because now our enemies sit close to our ships, and they have many fires. Tonight will be either our salvation or our destruction. So that's what Nestor was like. And right away, all the young men who were going to be guards, they put on their armor, and they got ready. And then there were seven captains of the guards. Okay, the first one was Nestor's kid, Thrasymedes. And he was a shepherd of the people, which means he was like, people, go this way, go this way. And then it was Ialmenos and Ascalaphos. They were the sons of Ares. Okay, then it was Meriones and Ephares and Deipyrus. And then it was, oh my God, it was Crayon's kid. Lycomedes. He was all shiny. And so then those 7 captains of the guards, they went, and 100 young men went with them, and they all went marching, and they had their spears in their hands, and they went in between where the trench was dig, and all the stakes are there, and there's the big wall, and they go and they sit there, and they start their fires and their watch, and then they have dinner. And then the old men too, they all go into Agamemnon's tent, and he gives them such a nice feast. Like, he just lays it all out, and they're all like, this is so delicious. Oh, this is great. Oh. And then when they were all done, when they didn't want to eat anymore, and they didn't want to drink anymore, and then it was Nestor. Now, Nestor was a horseman, and he had given really good advice in the last time. And he also, like how most people just say their words? Nestor, he weaves his words. He weaves it like cloth. And he's like, son of Atreus, lordliest lord of men, I will begin with you, and I will end with you. Because you rule over many people, and Zeus has given you the scepter with which you wield your decrees. And so it is right for you to say things. But it is also right for you to listen, and sometimes to give permission to a man whose own heart compels him to say what's good. And it is only this way, if you rule, that you will keep all the things that you have. So now, I will tell you what seems best to me. And I'll tell you that there is not a single person who has a better thought than me. Not now and not back then. Back when, you god-sprung Agamemnon, when you took the girl Briseis out of his tent, out of Achilles' tent, robbing him. We all had something else in mind then. I spoke out against it. But you, Agamemnon, you only listened to your own strong heart. You dishonored a man who is so powerful that even the gods honor him. And you have taken his prize, and you keep it. So now we all think that we should make amends with Achilles, that we should assuage him with gentle gifts and with honey words. And then Agamemnon was like, old man, You know, when you said I was crazy, you weren't lying. I was crazy. I don't deny it. You know, Zeus, he really, when he loves one guy, that guy becomes more worthy than all the rest of the bunch of guys put together. And now Zeus loves Achilles, and he beats down all my men. And so because of this, because I was crazy, I want to make things right. I'm going to give countless gifts to Achilles. And now I'm going to name them all for you. It's funny because you can count them. First, there are going to be 7 tripods. Okay, so a tripod is not like a camera tripod, but it kind of is because it's like a thing that's like you put it in your house and it has 3 legs and that's where you have your fire because there's no electricity, right? But, okay. And these tripods have never been used. There's never been a fire in them. Then, 10 talents of gold. Okay, so you know how much a talent of gold is?
No.
Okay, so you're a man, okay? You're a whole man. And if you had all the gold that weighed the same as you as a whole man, that's a talent. And he's giving him 10 talents. So like 10 guys of gold. And then 20 golden cauldrons. And then 7 women from Lesbos, which is the most beautiful race of women. And they all know how to work with their hands. Achilles himself, he captured these women when he sacked their city. And 12 horses. 12 race horses who win a lot of prizes. And they really got fast feet. These horses, if anyone owns them, he will never be poor in terms of how much land he has. He will never be poor in terms of how much gold he has. No, he's going to be a winner. And then, of course, I will also give back the girl, Briseis. And I will swear a great oath that I never touched her. I never went to bed with her, you know, like how men and women just naturally go to bed together. No. I will accomplish all these things for him. And you know what? If we take Troy, if God's granted to us to take the holy city of Iliad, well, then I'm going to let him heap up his ships full of gold and full of bronze, and I'm going to give him 20 Trojan women, the prettiest women after Argive Helen. And then if we make it all the way back to Argos, you know Argos, it's like the udder of the land of Achaia. That's right. It's the good stuff in Argos. If we make it back there, I'm going to make him my son-in-law. He'll love that. I'm going to honor him the same as Orestes, my son. And you know I spoiled that kid. And I've got 3 daughters, Chrysothemis, Laodike, Iphinasa. Some of you who are geeky are like, those aren't his daughters, but they are. And he can choose any one of them, the one that he wants the most, and he can take her back to Peleus' house, and I'm not even going to charge him a bride price. In fact, I will pay a dowry to go with my daughter, the biggest dowry that any man has ever paid, ever, for his daughter. And on top of all this, I'm going to give him 7 cities, 7 well-settled cities. The first one is Cardamyle, and the second one is Antiope, and the third one is Ife. It's got a lot of grass in it. Then there's going to be Holy Pharai and Anthea, which has a really deep harbor, pretty Ipaea, and finally Pedassos. Pedassos that has something else. Ah, so many vines. Oh. I will give him all of these things if he will only change from his anger. If he will let it go. And if he will be beaten down. If he will know how much lower he is than me, if he will finally realize how much kinglier I am, how much better than him I boast to be. And then Nestor, the horseman, was like, son of Atreus, you lordliest lord of men, no one here can dishonor all of these gifts that you have offered. There are many, and they are very good. Now, let us choose out some men to send on this embassy, and I will do the choosing, whoever I see with my eye and lay an eye on. First, let us send Phoenix. Phoenix, whom Zeus loves. He will be the leader. And then we will find Ajax, big Ajax, and brilliant Odysseus. And let there be 2 heralds that go with them too. Odios, Eurybates. And let them bring water for their hands, so that they might pray to Zeus, and he might pity us and help us persuade Achilles. So that's what he said. And then Nestor, no. First they got the water. Okay, then the heralds, they went and got the water. And they got the water, and they all washed their hands, and then they prayed. And then the young men, they came with a big mixing bowl of wine. And they poured all the wine in, and they stirred it up. And then everybody came and got their cup full of wine. And then they poured a little out to Zeus, and then they drank as much as they wanted to. So they got drunk before they went, which is kind of weird. And then they all left out of the tent of Agamemnon. But before they left, Nestor went, and he gave each one meaningful looks. Especially Odysseus. So that they would really try to persuade Achilles. And then they went, the 2 of them. I don't know what happened to the rest, but it's a duel. So now there's only 2 of them, and the rest of them went somewhere else. And they walked all the way along the beach of the crashing sea. And they were praying the whole time to Poseidon, who's the god of the sea, hoping that they would be able to persuade Achilles. And then they finally got to the ships and the tents of the Myrmidons. Those are Achilles' guys. And then they found Achilles. Achilles, he was sitting down by himself on the beach, and he was just playing his formings, but we're going to call it a guitar. And it was a really fancy guitar. It was really fancy, and it had a silver bridge, and he stole it from Etion City when he sacked that city. And he was just singing the songs about famous people, but his song was really about himself. I love Briseis. I took her from a place because I loved her face. But then Agamemnon took Briseis because Apollo took Chryseis. And now I miss Briseis. And Patroclus was just sitting there next to him while he was also alone on the beach, and he was just waiting for Achilles to stop singing. And Achilles was like, Briseis. But then he saw the 2 men coming. And it was Odysseus that was leading them, and I guess the other one was Ajax, and I still don't know what happened to the other guys. it's a Greek thing. And right away, he got up and he left his guitar right where he was sitting. And then Patroclus got up too. And then they went and they greeted them. And he said, "Greetings. Wow, you guys must really need something. But you know, even though I've been sitting over here sulking, you two are my favorite of all the Achaeans." So that's what Achilles was like. And Achilles went and took them in his tent, and he put them on purple couches. And then he shouted over to the son of Menoetius, that's Patroclus. Oh no, Patroclus. No, not yet. And he shouted out to Patroclus, and he was like, "Son of Menoetius, time to get out the good stuff. Mix them some stronger wine. Make sure that their cups are full. Because these men who are in my house, they are my favorite guys." So that's what he was like.
The band for having us. Shout out to Sam for always coming in early and helping us with the setup. Thank you so much. Shout out to Cristina Cugliandro, our week's director. Thank you all for coming. Please come back next week. It'll be Alain Golan directing.